I'm in this hallway. I think... Wait, I have to do a review. Is it in here? Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Graham, and this week I had read the Wayward Pines trilogy by Blake Crouch. If you don't know, this is a review channel where I review books that I read every single week. And so make sure you hit that like button to just say, hey, I'm here and I like reviews, just like you. That being said, if you've never heard of the Wayward Pines series, it's been out since 2013. And the reason I came across it is I, again, have been obsessed with a game called Alan Wake. And it was recommended by a lot of fans that it was a similar story. And so I found it in my crosshairs, checked out my local library, and lo and behold, they had the first book, and I read it, and I decided to, again, read book 2 and 3 from my library as well. So that's why the books aren't here, so I can show you the cool covers, but I'll make sure to pop them up as we talk about them. I'm going to do a basic summary first of what the book is about and what my thoughts were, and then we'll jump into spoilers, because I feel like that's a major part if I'm going to talk about each book of what they are, and we'll go from there. A summary of what this series is this is a inspired by Twin Peaks type mystery novel. In the acknowledgments of every single book, Blake talks about his love of Twin Peaks and shows like Lost, of where it's just like a town full of mystery and you have no idea really what's going on. And it unfolds every single episode and you go, man, like what's going to happen next? And so it really does have that feeling of that. And the whole premise of the book is a Secret Service agent wakes up in a small town called Wayward Pines in Idaho, and he has no remembrance of who he is. And so you follow this character who later finds out his name is Ethan Burke, and you learn that he was searching this town for his partner. And then suddenly he got in a car accident, and now he can't remember where he is and why this town even exists and like how weird this town is. And so the mystery gets unfolded with Ethan through this entire series. He's the main protagonist of it, and there's a lot that gets revealed, and there's a lot that are kind of basic tropes too. Like as I was reading this series, I could really have a mental image of this being a TV series, being a show like Lost, or being a show like Twin Peaks, where they have that dramatic moment of like, oh my gosh, a reveal, like I can't believe that. And there were just little bits and pieces of that as you're going through and uncovering the story. The story follows him and this town completely throughout all 3 books, which is really, really cool to be able to do that. And they're very, very fast reads. Hi, Future Graham here. As editing this video, I noticed something landed in my beard for like 4 minutes as I'm talking, which is really embarrassing. And so just to kind of get rid of that, I'm going to condense what I said. If you're a fan of Twin Peaks and you're a fan of Lost, this series does a great job of hitting those tropes. But because you're a fan, you're going to see a lot of it coming. The endings are the most surprising part of this series completely. Wayward Pines endings, every book felt like, oh man, and it made me want to read the next one, and that's where the payout really was. And the last book of the series feels totally different in a good way there. And so just kind of know that if you're already a fan of those things, you're going to know and see things from a mile away quite a bit. But the endings of those books really do hit pretty good. So there you go. If you don't want to get spoiled for the rest of it, this is the time to be able to cut off now. And then I'll have a rating at the end of what I'll give each book. I don't really feel like stopping and being like, Pines, this much. I'll just do like all the ratings at the end and then like an overarching series rating as well. And so that being said, spoilers now activated. Boop. Pines was interesting. You follow Ethan, you realize like there is a few key characters named Pam, that's a nurse, that's kind of interrogating him in the beginning. He keeps kind of causing a muck, like he's causing trouble in town. And the first big kind of reveal was he sees his partner, and his old partner, and she is aged by quite a bit of years. It seems like a decade since they last saw them, but it was just yesterday where he got in a car accident and lost his memory. And so that was the first big mystery where you're like, oh, is there like a weird supernatural creature that's aging people, was one of my first thoughts that was going through. And so the book does really, really well of going through that. And then the book does really well of having him try to escape this town and setting the rules forth of what that is. What ends up happening in that first book the thing that really sets the tone for the whole series is he runs into the man in charge, the one who is in charge of the town, the official one. And what ended up happening was he decided to abduct over 500 people and then have them in stasis essentially for 1800 years. And so he's actually 1800 years in the future and has recently been woken up while others have been waking up over time to populate this last town on Earth. And what's crazy is as he tries to escape and leaves the town in the first book, he ends up seeing these weird creatures that have translucent skin where you can see their heart pulse, but they have like human type flesh and walk on all fours and have talons as fingers. And that was the evolved version of us, humanity, 1800 years in the future. And so the book kind of ends where the main instructor goes, you know what, you're my new sheriff. And he becomes sheriff of the town to be able to live with his wife and his son, who were also abducted by this man, by the way, which leads to book 2. They're a huge part of the story of book 2 is Ethan Burke's wife and son. Son named Ben. I believe the wife's name is, I forget. I don't have the books in front of me, so I'm sorry. I totally forgot what their names are, and my notes are on my phone, which is recording this, so apologize for my whatever. I'll probably type it in here. But yeah, Ben and his wife, again, were abducted, but you get to learn more of their story this time, how they were approached by the main villain, who I also have his name up here as well, who promised them they would be able to spend time with Ethan, because Ethan was missing for a year and a half, and they almost gave up. And the guy approached them and said, hey, I will promise you to be with their husband if you come with me. And so he abducts them, and so they're there, and they're watching him be reintroduced in the town. And what's crazy is apparently he's been reintroduced in the town 3 times, what we discover in the second book. And he's caused havoc all 3 times, and he's had to be re-put into stasis and not. And it was a mess. It was crazy. Blake Crouch did a great job of having people have flaws. The wife had a flaw. Ben was more on the innocent part because he was a child, but you got to see the wife have a flaw. You got to see Ethan's flaws quite a bit. And the main villains, you got his perspective too of having a flaw. And then Ethan's Secret Service boss also, Hammond, I believe his name was, had a flaw as well. And it really captured the flaws of humanity. The captain got paid to keep Ethan's disappearance under wraps, and that affected the wife to be approached, to be abducted, and then the captain was in love with Ethan's wife to be able to go and be a part of it as well. So he ends up being there, and Ethan, being a flawed human, cheated on his wife with his old partner that's now 10 years older that lives inside this town. And so it seems like everything's revolving around Ethan's shortcomings and flaws, and he has to be able to balance that with jealousy from his wife, with his partner, old partner or his old love, and things of that nature. And so there's a lot of complex things going on. What's really interesting about this town is everyone's being tracked by microchips. And so cameras are, it's very dystopian and very similar to modern times, but cameras are watching each individual person constantly and recording them throughout the town so they can be monitored by this station miles away to make sure that nobody is going to try to escape and bring failure to them, because no one in Wayward Pines has actually told the truth about what's happened to them. The only person that knows in the town is Ethan, and he's now been trusted as sheriff to be able to do that. And so what ends up happening is we have that understory between all 3 books of the flaws, and maybe that's something, again, I don't know what's going on of why I have flawed parents as the book topics as of late, but again, it's a lot of discussion about being a great husband and father and things of that nature. And it's another central background theme of this story, which is really cool, while being dystopian and futuristic as well. And so the main crux of the second book, which is Wayward, is about someone getting murdered. There's a murder afoot, and Ethan is put on to solve it. And so he goes through and you learn more about how the surveillance works. You see him questioning different people, especially his old partner. And he realizes that a lot of people have removed their microchips that are in the back of their legs to go off in the middle of the night to a club that they've invented in the hills to be able to speak about their past life. They are breaking the rules of like, don't talk about Fight Club essentially, or don't talk about what's happening in Wayward Pines. They are doing that. And so it's mysterious. And what I love about the second book, I think the big thing that Blake did really well in that book was he made sure that you never knew where Ethan sided. Was he going to continue being the sheriff and working with this person that has captured all these people and released them in the future, pretty much the person that saved this little chunk of humanity at this point? Or was he going to side with Wayward Pine and the freedom that they deserve to talk about what their past was? And so the end of the second book that leads to the 3, again, massive spoilers, is Ethan tells everybody what has happened, and that causes the mastermind himself to crack and decide to open the gates, letting all of these aberrations of the new evolved humanity come in. And so the third book is insane because it literally is just them running for their life the entirety of the book. People get killed, things happen, but the core crux characters, Ethan's old partner, his wife, his son, and like the surveillance guy, and a new military person that is there named Aaron, and even Agent Haber, the captain, eventually comes back into town. He's been out doing things, but the aberrations come in and they have to fight for their life. And a lot of people now are mad at Ethan for revealing this information because now their lives are at risk. And eventually, what ends up happening is Ethan gets the main dude, and has everyone vote to make a choice to send him out of the gates to live on his own. And they end up turning on the gates and protecting their little haven of Wayward Town. But they're versed with another crisis of they're almost out of supplies. They only have 4 years left of supplies. What are they going to do? And so the end of the whole entire series was, before I hit the end of the entire series, there's one part in the third book that made me laugh out loud. So they're the last people in the world. There has been no explanation of diversity really in this book, unfortunately. There hasn't really been like, there's different people speaking languages. It's been pretty much like everyone speaks English. Everybody's from like Central America. No one really is like, they don't really talk about any diverse type stuff too much going on in this book. And so what was funny is the mom is talking to Ben saying like, hey, your dad, he's a hombre. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. He's a hombre, you know, he's a bad hombre, and we're all bad hombres because we're awesome. Like being like, we're badass, all that type of stuff. And Ben's like, he's like, you're not a bad hombre. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're a bad hombre, which isn't even a word. And why are they learning Spanish? Like, Ben has been going to this school that's been brainwashing him. Why are they teaching him Spanish if there's been no like mention of that at all? And so how would he know the rules of Spanish since he's been here for years learning his school? So I thought that was hilarious and weird. The hombre and ombra was super funny and made me laugh because I was like, why is this in here? This is so unlike that character. It was just like a very weird moment. And I think it was meant to kind of have like a cool 80s like feel one-liner type deal. So that was really funny to me. With that being said, the whole big reveal at the end, the end of the thing is everybody ends up deciding with the last 100 people left after the massacre of these aberrations coming to town and wiping them out. They decide to forgive each other. A lot of the people were mad at Ethan, forgave him. A lot of people, Ethan forgave himself. Other people forgave him as well. And the wife ended up, what was interesting with the captain was he actually told the main dude to not let Ethan be waken up because he wanted to live with his wife, Ethan's wife. So there's this weird part where she lived with him for a year and was loved by this man. And so Ethan's wife had a choice of who she wanted to be with, and they ended up choosing Ethan, and then everyone forgave each other. And it was weird. That was a cool, weird story because Ethan was known for being like a cheater, and so it was just very fascinating of like the outlook of what humanity was. Again, humanity being very flawed and what they want. And so with that being said, they choose to go back into stasis and fall asleep again to be in the future because they don't know what the world's going to bring by then with the aberrations, and they don't want to risk dying out there either. And so they'd rather take the last 100 people of humanity and just be frozen yet again. And there's a really nice speech that happens as well. And then the end of the book, the very last page, it says Ethan Burke's eyes open up 80,000 years later, and it ends. And you're like, oh, what? So I don't know if there'll be more Wayward Pines, and I don't know exactly everything going on, but I do know that I had a really fun time in this series and being able to learn all these things. It had really great reveals throughout the entire story, and a lot to be able to be excited about with this writing. It makes me want to read more of Blake Crouch's stuff because it wasn't hard to read, and I liked the ideas presented, and it just was fun. It was a really relaxing 3-book series to read. So I highly recommend it if you want to relax, have a good time, have good reveals, and laugh at some of the things that people do, because humanity is funny, and in the threat of no hope, people do funny things, and I think that was captured very well inside of this story. So it was good. I highly recommend it if you just want to have a good time. Do that. So with that being said, what is my rating? It's going to go through pretty fast. Pines, the first book of the series. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was good. You could see everything coming. The ending is what really made me want to continue reading the series, and that's what gives it that stars, is because as soon as I hit that last 50 pages and had the reveal of it being 1800 years in the future, I was sold. Wayward, 3.5 stars. Increased. I felt like Blake increased as a writer, and I really enjoyed learning more about the surveillance of things, and in order to keep the mystery of the town continuous, it was more of now people's antics. You really got into character more in that book, with Ethan needing to solve a murder. And so you got to see a lot more character development from everybody in the town, which I thought was great, and with people inside the main headquarters watching the town as well. The last town, 4 stars. Again, the action through it was really, really good. It was the one I kind of touched on the least in the spoilers, because there was just a lot of action going on while maintaining really good story of how Ethan is going to get the ending, the payout. You were having the avalanche, the finale of like, Ethan's got to get the payout at the end there. And just the fact that they chose to kind of go into stasis again made me very excited as a person. I didn't see that coming. I thought they were going to go in the wilderness and we see a sad ending, or like they would thrive out there and live, and something happened with the aberrations. That was cool. So yeah, I thought that was the way it was going to go. So the ending really surprised me, and I liked it, and I like being like, ooh, could there be more books of this series? It's really cool. So as a whole, Wayward Pines grows as a series as you keep reading. I really start enjoying the first and second book more as I hit the third book. And so overall, even though it goes 3.5, 4 is what I would give the entire series. Or like around that 3.5, 4. Like it was fun, it was good, and you're just gonna have a blast as you read this series. It's not gonna change your life. It's not gonna be like my top series of all time. It's just a fun time and a good read. And so I recommend it. If you want to have a fun time and a good read, that's what you need to do. I enjoy books like this. What is your favorite type of, like, what's a book that's not necessarily the best ever, but just fun to read? What's one of those for you? That's what I wanted to know. It's a question of the day. They can leave in the comments below. As always, my name is Graham. Thanks for watching my review this week, and go ahead and hit that. Don't even hit it. You know what? I'll just see you next week. Toodles. Bye.